Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's developer live stream for update 1.6.1. Nice of you all to join us today. We're glad to have you all here. For those of you who don't know me, I just want to give myself a very, very quick introduction. My name is Rick Taylor, also known as Iceman2K on all of our platforms. And I am one of the community managers, and I'll be taking over for Benson this week, who is getting a chance to sit on the other side of the screen while he's on holidays. Um, so yeah, Benzo and our other community managers will be in the chat to answer any questions that you guys may have today. So before we get started, though, I think I should probably introduce our guest for today. This way, I don't know which way to go. So, Dennis, how the hell are you, my friend?
Hello. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I would say that we probably don't really need much of an introduction, but I thought I would share what originally what I thought might be a little known fact, but it actually is a widely known fact at this point. But not only is Dennis the lead designer here at Crytek and primarily on Hunt, he is also the pun master of the office, and at least 90% of the puns that are generated in our office come from him. So I am
For better or
expecting,
worse?
for better or worse. So, uh,
Mostly
so
worse.
so yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it could mostly be worse, but we enjoy it. So, um, right, let's get started. We've got a lovely, lovely live stream planned for you today. As we said, we're going to go through update 1.6.1, and yeah, let's switch over to the next screen and get started on the presentation. So, first up, we want to do just a little bit of housekeeping. So this update in particular is focused around just quality of life changes. So you'll notice that for the most part, we're not adding in any new weapons or items or anything like that. Um, Basically, if you want to go into a little bit more detail here, Dennis.
Yeah, just give me 1 second because someone said my audio is apparently too loud. So just moving my mic a little bit
So
away
you're
in case
you're
it's better
too
now.
well. It might be. I can fix that. Give me a second. That for you, and change that slightly for me.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see if chat can let us know.
Okay, both audio sounds
I'm
good
quiet
apparently.
still, apparently, but okay, I've turned it up a
Ah,
little
there.
bit more. But we'll keep going as we go. But anyway, so like we're saying, we're giving some aspects some much needed attention leading up to the next big thing, which is,
Yeah,
as we said, hashtag like the shadow. So
exactly. So 13 days from now, right? As you can see on the bottom right there, pulsing, we get something new. We're not going to talk too much about that today, just to manage expectations. But as Rick was already mentioning, this is the housekeeping. This is the update that prepares for this, brings a kind of like really like sought after changes and some very nice improvements, which we're going to walk you guys through today.
yeah, and like we said, we have a lot of improvements coming along as well, aside from update 1.6.1. This is just kind of a good starting point for us to kind of kick things off as we start progressing through the rest of the year. So one of the things that we're kind of doing a bit of focus on in the background, just for some awareness for everybody. So we've got the three S's, as we call it: stability, servers, and service. So essentially, these are things that are constant, ongoing things that we're working on in the background. We may not talk about it all of the time. We occasionally do try to give updates when we have some news or anything like that. But just so you guys are aware, we may not say it all the time, but in the background, these are the three things that we are always, always working on. And on top of that, we are also looking at some of the console issues that have been brought to our attention with update 1.6.1 or 1.6, sorry. Some issues were already hotfixed earlier today, and we are currently working on the three of the main ones are the clues not showing up in Darksight, a poison bug, and some freezes and stuttering that have been encountered with entering and exiting compounds. So
Yeah, so expect changes to those and fixes to those rather soon.
yes, definitely. So with that, we're going to move on. And the first
All
topic
right.
we're going to go through
Yep.
is the accessibility changes. So,
This is basically a big topic for us, and we have a couple of different parts to this. So it's like one big broad thing, and as you mentioned with the housekeeping earlier, this is basically the quality of life changes. This is like some changes specifically also for the console crowd, but also for PC, where we kind of unify things a little bit. We give you guys more options, and we just have refactored and rebuilt some of the underlying systems for everything to operate much smoother, much nicer. And yeah, let's go through them step by step, starting with a weapon handling refactor.
Yeah. So with this, as we were discussing earlier, we want to basically have the system, the whole weapon handling system, be much more solid and much more flexible.
So you guys have seen a couple of issues in the past, like you are very familiar with. I think we last touched upon some of those in the stream as related to the whole topic around quick swapping, for example, where we discussed delays of being able to get out of sights mode, for example, when you let a button, or not having the full sensitivity right away. It's like changes like that we're talking about. So overall, the system should feel a lot more responsive, a lot more flexible, but obviously still respecting all of the balancing choices that we've made in the past. For example, the ability to quick swap is still hampered by the fact that we wait for the weapon to fire, like to finish the recoil and all of the stuff that we talked about the last time, basically.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll move on to the next slide. And one of the first things that we're introducing with all of these accessibility changes is the option to leave ADS. So basically, as it says there, you'll be able to leave ADS during shots. So previously, this was something that was locked to ADS until the weapon was like entirely finished through the firing animation. But now you actually have the ability to leave ADS as soon as the recoil phase of the animation kicks in. So one of the things you'll probably notice is you'll have immediately improved agility. And for anyone that needs clarification, ADS is aim down sights. So you'll have, like we said, improved agility as soon as you stop aiming. But we need to point out that this only works when going out of ADS. It does not impact equipment swapping. So Dennis, do you want to give us some more details on this?
Yeah, it's basically what I mentioned before. Like so we had to make sure that like we not by doing these very important optimizations where we're introducing the ability to quick swap, for example. We don't want quick swap in the game as is, or as it was back then, and these changes are still being respected, but there was still much room for improvement when it comes to how, in general, the gunplay feels, like the responsiveness feels. So yeah, it's basically just our attempt of by changing the underlying system to be more flexible, now having the chance to actually show this. And we do, speaking of show, we do have a video for this.
Actually, we do have a video, so give us 1 second there and we'll transfer it over. We'll let this run a few times just so we can properly talk people through it.
As you can see here, for example, it's much easier. Just like snap off shot and then just like turn instantly at your normal sensitivity, move away. It just everything feels a lot more responsive.
Yeah,
and
so lots smoother with the transitions. Yeah,
exactly.
Lots smoother with the transitions, and obviously this is something that people have been asking for a while. So, you know, we're really glad to be able to get this in with this refractor. So we'll do it.
Like,
one last.
It's mostly this is mostly about being able to like leave the actual ADS state. It's not so much about zooming in. That's exactly the same, so it doesn't really affect anything like quick swapping or anything like that. It just gives you a bit more flexibility to actually relocate after shots, move around, get a feeling of being under control, not stuck in place until you have to basically suffer the end of like zooming out process in order to complete. Everything is much more faster, but still there won't be any quick scoping because of that, because anyways we have like the sensitivity change for the first few milliseconds after going in, but also in general, like this is mostly about leaving rather than entering the state.
Yeah, and we see someone saying, when can you quick swap a swap after the shot? Does it go through the same time as it would normally, or is there
yeah, exactly. So quick swapping is exactly the same. So basically the rule that we introduced for countering fast quick swapping was that it at least has to suffer through the recall, right? You need that, basically you need to wait on the weapon to finish that, and that is still the case. You will not be able to swap your weapon faster because of this change, but you will be able to leave, for example, aiming down sights faster with the change.
Cool. Okay, so we move on to the next slide, which is something that is kind of primarily aimed for people who like to use controllers. So console guys, we got you guys in mind as well with some of these. And that is the forced reload on controllers. So, do you want to take us through this one, Dennis?
Yeah, so basically, the problem or the challenge on controller is, or like playing with a controller is, and that's not just for console, but obviously also for any game on PC you play with a controller, is that you have only so many buttons, right? And one of the conventions that we normally see in shooter games on console is that the reload button, if the game needs one, is usually shared with an interact button, like usually, for example, on the X button on the Xbox controller. And that always is a problem of priority because the system needs to understand what is your intent. Do you want to open a window, interact, or do you want to reload your weapon? Both using the same button. So in order to avoid that issue now, which I think every console player can somewhat relate to, we now have an option for you to definitely force a reload if you need it without any confusing interactions. So basically, you just have to open up the weapon wheel, and while the weapon wheel is open, if you press the X button during that time, you will definitely do a reload. You will not do a vault interaction. So
Which
it just
um,
gives you a bit more quality of life, a bit more control about your actions.
And we think this is one thing in particular. I think for me personally, anyway, I'll see this as very useful in enclosed spaces like the hunting towers, as we mentioned. I mean, in
Yeah,
the hunting towers, you get up there, you have the ladder, you have multiple windows, possibly even a lamp or something like that. So it can be a bit awkward to kind of make sure you're pressing the right thing without closing a window or climbing back down a ladder or anything like that. So this is a really, really good option to be able to kind of guarantee the reload rather than just fumbling around and hoping you get to do the right thing at the right time. And I believe
we
we
had
have a video for this one as
exactly.
well. Yes, so switch over to the video there. That's not the right one. Here it is. So as
As
you
you can
see
see,
here,
like,
yeah,
yeah, you can press the button and you want to reload, but it just opens and closes the window shutter. But now, if you open the wheel and press it while the wheel is open, you definitely initiate the reload instead of operating the shutter. So it gives you that control. Also nice, obviously, if like for example in the bell tower, you don't accidentally ring the big bell, as an
it's,
example.
it's very, very important. So yeah, and that's that. So next we're going to jump into some controller scheme changes. And first up, we have got the changes to Gunslinger. So the first addition we have is the ability to lower the weapon.
Yes, so this is something which I think we've seen also recently pop quite a bit, pop up quite a bit in the community. It's like something people really, really like to do because basically the disadvantage of being on the gunslinger control scheme is that like your weapon is always kind of like on shoulder aim. Therefore, you always stick with your barrel through like windows, whatever, which can be really frustrating at times as it gives away position. So there's a chance now for you to set the lower weapon option, and that allows you then, even in Gunslinger, to press button in order to lower your gun and benefit from the same lowering stance as, for example, the players playing on the Hunter control scheme can do. So it's basically just again a quality of life thing, just something which, especially on the console crowd, because Gunslinger is obviously like the way to go on the console, like just
Hmm,
by far.
yeah.
It just makes it a lot easier to kind of like benefit from the same behavior as on Hunter mode.
Yeah. So here is how you activate it. With on PC, you hold Q to lower the weapon, and specifically holding. On Xbox, then it's holding Y, and on PlayStation, it's triangle. Sorry for just typing out the word triangle. I didn't have a triangle symbol I could use. So, um, tapping Q, just specifically for PC, will still do the quick switch to your secondary weapon or your primary weapon, depending on which you have in your hand.
Yeah,
Shooting is still possible from this stance. So there isn't like multiple inputs or anything like that required. It will, once you press the fire, it will immediately pop up, but it will come with a slight delay. Slight,
for the
like,
transition.
yeah,
Yeah.
just for the transition, because obviously you can't shoot your gun when you're pointing it down at the floor. So, so yeah. And then we have a few more changes.
If you want, we can also. I think we have a video for this one as
Oh,
well. We
oh,
can
we
just
do
quickly. Yeah.
indeed. No, that's
I
the
mean, it's
wrong
always
one
hard to
again.
show. It's always hard to show in a video like the button presses, but like let me just walk you guys through when we see
All
it in a
right, give
second.
me 1 second here now. I'm trying to find the actual video. I don't have. Okay, I don't have this video here.
The lowered shots gunslinger.
No, I do not.
Okay, well,
Okay,
I think
well,
we can show it with the other things as well. But
yeah.
technically, what you would have seen in that video is basically first off the guy just pressing a button, when lowered, it then raises up the weapon, and then it breaks the shot basically. So again, something you can very easily also test out for yourself on test server. So no worries.
We found the first thing that I've messed up. So.
It's all good. I don't think we missed much.
No, no. So next in the Gunslinger changes, we have an option to keep the lowered state.
Yeah, so this is basically exactly that option, that if you would just like go to the options menu, and I think for that one actually we do have a video then. You can basically say that whether after you've done an action, whether it should stay up, basically, but as Gunslinger normal, and you would need to press the button again, hold Y, Q, or depending on platform, in order to initiate again the lowered state, or whether it should go back to the lowered state. So this is like an options menu entry now, where you can
So this is what
decide between enabled and disabled.
So this is what will show up in the UI when you actually hover over the option. So with enabled, weapon automatically transitions back to lowered state after being aimed or fired. And on disabled, the weapon needs to be manually lowered again after being aimed or fired. So,
do we have a video for
I
this
don't
one?
know. I'm pretty certain not. If I'm honest with you, hang on. No, not this one either. So that's on me.
Okay,
that's on me.
That's fair enough. Don't worry. Again, all of that stuff easily to try out on the test server once it goes online, and you guys have a chance to check all of the options, play with the different things, and just find your preferences.
And remember as well, like we said, this is like when it hits test server, do go on, give us the feedback, because we do really need these all of these options are being put in, for the benefit of you guys. So we need you guys to test it, break it, do whatever you can with it. Just make sure you get that feedback to us. So with that, we'll move on to, that's everything from the Gunslinger. So we'll move on to the Hunter control changes. And first up is a dedicated melee button. So
yes. With this one, basically, we already had it, right? It's already part of Gunslinger, and we thought, why not just have it also available for Hunter? It's an optional thing, so it doesn't change anything on Hunter by default. It's just there that you can use it separately if you want. Similar for how we split, for example, vaulting and jumping in the past. So you basically have a chance now to, if you want to definitely press the melee button and have a reliable melee, you can just press the separate button, or you just do it with a left mouse button, as long as you're not aiming as you're used to. So it's just additional quality of life for the Hunter mode.
Yes. Now this one we do have a video for.
Yay!
Sure. So I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't mess this one up. So we'll switch over. So this will show you the two different options. So this is the first option where you are aiming down sights. So at the start of the video, you're aiming down sights. You press B to melee, and you go back to the aim down sights immediately. And then the second one is you letting go and melee as normal.
Yeah. So in practice, there's no big difference, but technically with the separate button, you can now initiate it from ADS already, the melee, in case it's needed for you. Again, it's just an additional option. We don't know how many people will use it in practice, but it's there for you to pick and choose.
Yeah, exactly. So, and yeah, there's the last part. Previously, it was only possible to fire the weapon. But now with this
one thing, like since someone mentioned it in the chat, like, oh my god, who the hell cares? Those changes are pretty meaningless.
Yes.
We understand that, but the thing is, like, by doing these underlying changes of the system, like, these options have now become available to us. So many of these things are just minor changes, but we can finally do them. And we believe that giving you guys more options to customize in general is a good thing. So yes, there might only be a very small fraction of the players who sometimes really feel that this is something that they would use in practice. I mean, we all are familiar with the game. We all have our preferred style, but still it gives you a bit of control here and there in order to just like fine tune a little bit, and gives the chance, for example, some people who might have had like some handicaps, some disabilities, just like to work around those by setting the controls to a particular setting that maybe in the mainstream no one really cares about.
Yeah, for the most part. And this is the thing. I mean, when we say quality of life, I mean, these are general quality of life. And it also lays the groundwork for more stuff that we can do later down the line, So, yeah, let's move on to the next section anyway. Thank you for that, Dennis. So the next is the sprint to aim transition. So Gives basically an option that will give you the ability to determine what happens when an aim input is issued while sprinting. But this mostly applies if you have sprint and ADS bound to the same key. So with it, there's going to be two options. And we got what shows up in the game as again. So the shoulder aim will be interrupting sprint, will go to shoulder aim as normal. And aim down sights, interrupting sprint will go directly to aim down sights as long as the sprint input is still pressed. So, going to go a bit more detail on that?
I don't think we need to, but
Nope.
we don't need to,
Nope.
but we can show the video about it because I think we do have one for that.
Sprint to aim. No, I do not. Again. So, yeah. It seems I missed out on 3 videos. I didn't realize this. I genuinely thought I had all of the videos today, but okay, apparently not. But look, first time doing a dev stream, so I think I can.
It's all right.
Be
it's
forgiven.
All right. It gives these guys more stuff to try out on the server.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, again, it's just a minor option, and it's again down to preference, so people can just play with it and see what is better for them.
Okay, so next then is a shoulder aim toggle. Now this is a bit of an outlier. Right, we'll say it straight up. We know that probably a lot of people are not going to use this kind of an option, but
yeah,
again, it's there. Again, it's there. So, added a menu option for shoulder aim toggle, set either to toggle or hold, similar to some of the other settings, and uncommon option, but we added it anyway, as it can help in certain circumstances. Not recommended for new players, though. So, and it's kind of important. This is not something that you would have in a standard shooter. I mean, maybe it might be an option, but generally speaking, this is not something that people do in shooter games. So, like we've said, the option is there. You can try it if you want. By all means, try it. But yeah, we don't recommend it for newer players for sure. So
exactly.
Yeah. So with that, we're done with the controller layout changes now, and we're going to move on to some FOV changes. So this is something that I think a lot of people are going to like. We always hear a lot of stuff about FOVs. So let's get into it.
Yep. So basically, as you guys know, if you're a bit familiar with how there's differences between specifically consoles and PC, is that we always forced a specific setting on console, right? So basically, the way the FOV narrows, the players then in Gunslinger specifically, exactly, like they had like a different FOV than, for example, on a PC. And by again refactoring the entire system underneath, making sure that we have more options there, we finally made this complete by player choice. So that means people on console, people on PC, they can set this to their own liking and either have the FOV adjusted or not. And yeah, basically, again, just quality of life change.
Yeah.
Two new settings are part of it. So you have a lowered state, and then we have the shoulder aim FOV.
Yeah.
So again, both of those you can set to either the default or the zoom, and then it's down to you which one you use. By default, it's going to keep the options as before, but you can set it up and then adjust it. We do have, I think,
for this
a
one,
video of that.
For this one, we do for sure. I know we do for sure. But first, just the last point we want to add on to it is that the default sensitivity sliders are now also available in the Gunslinger scheme, which they weren't before.
Yes, yeah, that's actually a very, very good point. Yes.
So, but as we said, we have a video to kind of show off a bit of the from shoulder aim with the FOV. So we'll switch over to that.
So as you can see here, it's basically the FOV kind of narrows down a little bit as you go through different aim stages. Now, if you go to the options and you set this to like the default rather than zoomed, you will not see a zoom happen only when you go to ADS. So between hip and shoulder aim, you basically have a smooth transition.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just have to run this. As you can see here, normally you would see like an FOV narrowing down, like basically zooms in a little bit. And you can now disable that if you like.
One more look so you can see there's the zoom. And with it off again. So yeah, just to give some smoother transitions, you know, and as something that we've again been asked for quite a bit over the last few years. So, and then we'll show you the menu as to where all of these options live now. So as you can see, they're all located on the same page here on the game settings. So you've got the lowered state field of view underneath the default field of view, the shoulder aim directly below that, shoulder aim input and aim down sights, which we spoke about a little while ago, and the sprint aim transition as well. And underneath that as well, you can see the keep lowered state
Yeah, it's
option.
only active if you were on the Gunslinger mode, though,
Yes.
obviously.
Cool. So one last thing we've got on the accessibility side of things is an auto interact option. So
Yeah, it's actually another interesting one. So basically, if you tick the box for that, that's also in the same menu. You can just keep on pressing the interact button, the use button, and just kind of vacuum clean across the floor, for example, to pick up that bolt, that knife, or whatever.
like that
And
vacuum cleaner.
obviously gives you a chance to kind of like run at the door and kind of like open it at the like the most convenient moments, right when the interaction becomes available. You don't need to time it so nicely. So it just makes everything a bit more convenient. It's something you have to get used to, so that's why it's also off by default. But it will try to trigger any sorts of interactions in range and just makes it a bit more flexible for those guys, especially again or when playing with a controller, in order how to navigate where maybe sometimes homing isn't as precise maybe as it can be with mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
So it's again quality of life. So try it out. I think it might still give a couple of edge cases that I think hopefully they should be all right now by the time we go on a test server. For example, with the rotating doors, like the heavy doors that you have to open up, where you kind of close them instantly after you finished them. That was like an issue we had recently. I think it's resolved now, but you might come across a few of these edge cases. If so, please call them out to us also as part of the normal feedback loop, and we'll make sure to address those before we go on the live service.
Yes, of course. So just to finish up with it, the effect is enabled after holding the interact button for 0.25 seconds. But it also doesn't interfere with single tap. So if you single tap, you're still going to get the single tap reaction. Holding it will, as we've said, allow you to kind of run around and vacuum up anything that you want to within range.
Dauntless OP.
Dauntless OP. I knew someone was going to say it. I was waiting for someone to say it. So yeah, it kind of gives Dauntless a little bit more help, shall we say. So but one thing for me personally, I find it's absolutely fantastic when running past doors and windows, being able to very quickly just, get them closed without kind of fumbling about at the door going, close, goddammit, close. So, it's pretty good. So, next up, we've got a few gameplay changes.
Yeah, so basically we've concluded now like this whole accessibility and quality of life topic. So as you can see, many of these changes have just been changes we really couldn't do before. Some of them not so big, some of them actually quite meaningful, quite interesting, but in general only possible because of the amount of work we put in under the hood basically into the system to just make it more responsive and just basically finally allow us to get around some of the issues that we have just been limited by just the way it was set up in the past.
And again, it just kind of opens the path for us to be able to do more along these lines as well. So essentially, we always want the hunt to be accessible to as many people as possible. So little changes like this at that start, be able to see how they work, and means that we can lead on to bigger and more impactful changes further down the line.
Yeah. There will also very likely be more changes in future updates. So like having this foundation now allows us to just look into particular things moving forward that we couldn't look into. So as we release more and more updates, just expect more and more things that maybe annoyed you for some time already, just maybe to magically disappear.
Yeah.
And become just better versions, because that system refactor allows us doing that finally.
And we'll see, we have kind of called it out in the notes a bit more that the refactor has helped us actually to address certain bugs and stuff like that have actually been in the system for a bit. So it's pretty awesome. But anyway, let's move on to the gameplay changes. The awesome stuff. So first up, we have made a change to the cost of health chunks, and we have reduced some.
Exactly. So before, basically, there was a difference that 50 health chunk basically cost you 3 upgrade points versus the 1 upgrade point that the 25er cost, and we've now made this scale linearly. Basically, that means a 50 HP chunk is now just 2 points. So it's a reduction in order to be in line with the amount of health. So it's consistent with the 25er. And we feel that just makes it more interesting also as a choice, because as you know, like this game has several advantages and disadvantages for either picking 25ers, picking 50ers, right? With one you can absorb more damage and recover. The other one you have to then top up already because it was just a 25er. But then again, the 25er gives you more revives. So there's like lots of situations where you can find like an advantage or disadvantage for picking 25 and 50, and it's really down to your playstyle to what is more useful to you. As a solo, maybe you don't want too many 25ers. Maybe in a team you actually want them. It really comes down to you. And now there is nothing really that prevents you from making this as a gameplay choice. There's no economic burden for picking one over the other. So that's why it's two upgrade points basically for the same amount in either case.
Yeah. Just to bring everything more in line, kind of, feels a little bit fairer, I guess. So cool. So now we have what I would say is a pretty big new addition coming up on the next page here. So let's talk about the new bounty revive mechanic.
So that's going to be a really interesting one. So basically, in the past we had the problem that's I think you all can recall like a tale from that. Whenever you had like your awesome fight with your friends, but there was this one guy in the team that died. Red Skulls, no chance to pick him up. We wanted to get a way into the game to allow you to do that, but be very careful how we introduce it. So this shouldn't be something that affects the fear of death, that makes it a like more casual or anyway. It's more of an option, because what we felt was really frustrating is just like winning that fight, clutching it the last minute, and then basically still have to leave early because your own teammate is already waiting because he can't be revived, or just because he can't be part of the victory. So we want to make sure that for specifically these situations, we offer this mechanic. It's something which actually we have seen quite a bit also in the community being talked about in the past.
Yep.
So you can already see like it's a controversial change
It is.
by looking at the chat.
We can see chat
So
going a bit nuts, but it's going nuts in both directions, which is an interesting one. So yeah, we have a lot of people that are like, no, this shouldn't happen, and a few people are like, holy crap, that's amazing. So let's go through it a little bit more detail. And then
fill in the blanks
yeah,
basically.
let's fill in the blanks a little bit.
So basically, what you can do is that if you are carrying bounty, and that is the condition, you have to be a bounty carrier. You have to be in possession of bounty. You can go to your teammate physically and revive him. So basically, just as a normal revive interaction, even if the guy is red skulled, if he is out completely, you have a chance, if he's still in the game that is, to bring him back to life.
Yes.
Now, if you do that, similar to if you were to use Necromancer over distance, it will drain a 25 HP chunk. So basically, it will empty some of the health. So there is a certain amount of cost. And again, 50 versus 25 health chunks, right? Gives you room to explore options. And the revived player will then obviously be revived with just a single health chunk. So he has his 50 chunk. And I mean, he's basically a near death anyways. You know how it feels if you are down to your last chunk at the moment. You're not going to take many risks. And at least you do have a change like here now that you can bring people back. However, it will not work at distance with Necromancer. So you cannot combine this with Necromancer at all. You have to be physically going to the corpse and do it. If you can't get to the corpse, there's no chance you can use this mechanic. So in practice, for the most part, this will be used when the fight is over.
Yes.
Yeah, like so, you've won the battle. The last guy won over. Now he can maybe bring this one guy back that already was on his last chunk, right? You can dare certain things because there's a chance for your teammates, if they win, if they get a bounty, to actually bring you back up. Obviously, only then.
Yeah.
Now, can this also be used in combat? Yes, sure, it can. It definitely upgrades the value for carrying bounty. Right. Yes. I mean, we see this quite a lot actually, where people leave the bounty behind, just like walk in the shadows and just move to the second bounty, for example, or see that they can get a drop on.